Hey everyone, welcome to Hit the Deck. Thanks for checking us out. We got something very special for you on tap today. And what we're going to do is try an experiment where we will attach a plug to a one-piece hockey stick. So I had already tried to connect the plug, which is designed for a shaft, onto the one-piece stick to permanently forge one piece, and it failed. So now I needed to enlist the help of a specialist.
Dr. Sajazi?
Dr. American Rhino.
All right, can you please give us some background on the patient?
So it all started on Christmas morning, which it was great and exciting. I received a Titan hockey stick for a present, and I love the Titan brand hockey sticks, and very excited that they're back. But the problem was it's a one-piece, and it's a little short. So I'm a defenseman, and I need to have a certain length of stick to do my job properly. So I had a plug from another shaft, which I needed to chop off, and it happened to just be the perfect length to add to my new stick. So obviously a one-piece is not designed to have a plug put into it. So I figured, well, let's try something, and because I really love the stick. I love Titan brand sticks, and for whatever reason. And I wanted to use it. So it was specifically designed for deck hockey, too, with the blade. It was perfect, except it was just a one-piece that was too short. So I tried to merge the plug onto the stick and used a high industrial strength glue, Gorilla Glue, if you've heard of that brand, and taped it all up as you would a regular stick and left it overnight, and so it happened. So the day finally came when I could use my stick. I was confident enough that everything's set. It looked fine. It felt good in the hands. And away we went. So game starts. First period, holding up great. I was on top of the world. It was my Christmas present. It was a great story. Game's going well. Defense is holding up. We're winning. We go into the second period. Same thing. It's holding up great. Wear and tear. It's getting knocked around. It's passing the test. I'm in seventh heaven. Feeling great. Stuck the stick out and snap. The plug and the tape, and I felt it in my hand, and I swear it would have felt better if somebody just took a knife and plunged it in my heart. The stick was broken, I was broken, and it was the worst nightmare, worst case scenario. This is it. I don't know what to say, but please fix it.
All right, doctor, thank you for that. Now, let's prepare the patient.
So I have a very rough grit for sandpaper, and again, just trying to create, I don't want to lose any of the length of the plug, but just want to create enough rough surface so that the glue can stick to it properly. Also trying to get rid of some of the old glue that remained on from my failed bid to connect the two pieces without any other means besides tape and glue. And hopefully that maybe we can help players in the future that for whatever reason they make a one-piece stick that is not long enough. This could help you get a one-piece and connect the plug to it.
So what we're going to be doing to connect the butt end to the stick proper is a bit of an experimental procedure. And I say experimental because I don't know if anyone's done it before. I didn't bother to research this. This is just something I came up with off the top of my head. If I'm reinventing the wheel here, I apologize, and I mean no disrespect to whoever came up with the technique. And if not, feel free to use it. So what I'm going to do is, since these are two solid pieces of wood that we're trying to join, I decided that the best way to do this would be to use furniture connectors. So if you've ever put it together anything from IKEA, or put together, a bed or a chair or something, you've probably run into these. Basically, it's there's this pin that I have here. It's this is 3 pieces that I had to purchase separately just because of the way this kit came. But it's a little brass barrel, and you can see it there. And this pin screws into it. So this is going to be part 1. What I'm going to do is drill a hole in the stick and measure precisely, of course. Drill a hole in the stick, drop this pin in, drill another hole down for this, drill a hole in the stick, drop this barrel in, drill another hole down, drop this pin in. If I've done my job correctly, they line up perfectly, and I can screw this pin into this barrel. So that's part 1. That will be the bottom part of the stick sticking up, and at the top, again, this is the part that you're probably most familiar with. There's this kind of circular screw-shaped thing, and what you do is you hook it over the pin and turn it so it locks it. So put it over the pin and turn it so it locks it down. So now it's going to be all one piece in theory. And then we will subsequently glue, once the pieces are firmly joined, we will also glue and tape the butt end. Hopefully it doesn't move. Hopefully it doesn't affect the integrity of the stick too much, but time will tell. But that's the procedure we're attempting today. I have to take a very precise measurement here. That's why I have my ruler, my pencil, and obviously the tools that I'm going to be using. Because if I'm off by even a very tiny fraction of an inch, then it's not going to line up properly, and this will all have been for naught. So we're banking on my ability as a carpenter. So James, I apologize in advance. But what I'm going to do is put together the brass pin. Here, let me give you a closer shot of what we're working with here. So I'm going to put this pin connected to this brass connector, this barrel connector, just so I know what kind of sizes I'm working with. I'm going to stick it in long ways, or with the width of the shaft. So what I want to do here is I want to make sure that it's sticking out just enough so that it can grab it. So the idea is that this is going to be this connector that screws on to the top of the pin is going to be sitting just at the bottom of the butt end. So that way we have something that it fits very tight and very snug. So there's just a little bit of overlap here. So what I've done here is I have several drill bits, and each drill bit is pre-selected to almost exactly fit the piece of hardware that I'm installing. So since I'm drilling holes in 3 different places and with 3 different pieces of hardware, I have 3 different bits. So what you can see I have here is I have 3 different size drill bits. For the pin, this is a smaller diameter. Again, it's going to depend on what hardware you decide to use if you decide to go this route, but this pin is roughly equivalent to a 1/4 inch bit. I have the small brass barrel, and that is equivalent to a 5/8 inch bit. And what I have over here is the large 3/4 inch bit, which is equivalent to the size of the connector that will go in the plug. So I'm starting with the brass barrel, and you can see what I've done is I have put masking tape on the bits. That is to give me depth. Since I don't have a proper jig for any of this, I need to kind of makeshift my depth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drill until I hit this masking tape, and that's my cutoff point. So that should best case scenario, if I've done this right, that should leave this brass bit just about flush with the edge of the stick. And when we're finished, we will fill everything with some wood putty so everything is nice and smooth and you can't even see the hardware, which will be under the stick tape anyway, so you won't see it. But we want to make sure it looks nice and even. So, and feels good. We want to make sure it has a good feel. So I've already got my outline. I know exactly where I'm drilling. So I'm just going to center this on here, make sure it's a 90-degree angle, because we want it straight, and very slowly begin to drill right here. I'm drilling slowly because I want to make sure I get to the right depth and I don't dig too deeply. So if you're confident in your drilling abilities to drill a little faster, you probably can. I'm just going to speed up the drill a little bit. I have a very light touch on the trigger right now. It's capable of going much faster, but I have my drill on the lower torque setting, which is 1, and so I'm not even using all of that. I'm almost to the line. You can't see, I keep moving the sawdust out from the hole so I can see when I'm nice and level. So I'm just about there, and I am in. Okay. Pull it out. Let's knock out that hole so there isn't a bunch of sawdust in there. You can see, if you look closely, you can see it does not go all the way in. There's still a little bit of stick on the other end, which is what we want. And so now is the moment of truth. I've got my little brass fitting, and I'm going to drop it in there, and if I've done my job, it will fit snugly and be the perfect shape. So now I have my precision hammer, and I'm going to, that's not a real thing, obviously. Now I'm going to just give it a little tap because I don't want to damage the brass, and I definitely don't want to damage the stick. And the hole is just about big enough, so I should just be able to tap it in. And we're in. You can see it's nice and flush with the rest of the stick. So now comes the next step, which is going to be drilling the hole for the pin. Now, what we have to do is, I've already got the marking for where I want to screw, although I will say I think my hole that I drilled for the brass barrel is slightly off from what I drew, so I'm going to have to adjust for that. And again, this is why I didn't want to measure out and install the hole for the butt end first, because I knew that these kind of little things happen, and sometimes you need to adjust on the fly, which is what we're doing. I mean, that's a hallmark of hockey, being able to change on the fly, right? So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to change on the fly. We're still going to want to make sure it's straight. So we're not going to make it perfectly center. We're going to line it up so it's a 90-degree angle with the brass connector, the brass barrel. I've hit something. What have I hit? Let's see. Hopefully I've hit the dead center of this bolt. This barrel. So what I've done is I've swapped out for a 5/16 size bit, which is a little larger than I wanted, but I just tested it and the pin won't even go down. So I'm going to have to use this larger bit. I'm going to go very carefully because, again, I don't want to damage the integrity of James's stick, and I want to make sure that I don't drill any further than I have to. I already have the hole, which is good, so I don't have to worry as much about a straight drill because it should just follow the line of the previous pilot hole. Alright, the channel looks fairly clear. I can see clear to the hole, so I'm going to drop in the pin right now. I have a lot of space, and it's slightly off center, so I'm going to twist this brass fitting so that it is centered, which is why it has that screw tip on it, so you can drop a screwdriver in and turn it to where it needs to go. There is a screw tip also in the bottom of this pin, so I can get a Phillips head screwdriver and I can actually screw it in that way. That would probably be the smart way to do it. Okay, which is what I'm doing. I can feel it grabbing, and that's as far as I can go. So I says to myself, I want to make sure that this butt end lines up exactly with this stick, so I know where to drill the hole. But, no pun intended, I don't have anything that I can use as a sleeve to make sure that it lines up. And then it hit me. I got a aluminum foil pan lid at the 99-cent store, 2 for 99 cents, and I said I can just cut out a section of that and I can wrap it like so. It's flexible enough that I can move it around, malleable enough that I can move it around and set it to the kind of rectangular shape that I need it to be, which is to line up the exact stick shape, but it's firm enough that it will retain that shape and cheap enough that I can buy it. So, what I'm going to do now, you can see that I have it on here as a sleeve, and I'll be able to just drop this plug end in and know exactly where I need that to be. So, what I'm going to do is, rather than eyeball this, because this is the part that needs to be really, really precise, I have some white out, and what I'm going to do is paint the edge of this pin. It doesn't matter if I fill up that hole, that screw hole, because we're not going to be using that anymore anyway. So I paint that, and then when I extend this sleeve out and drop the plug, and then drop the plug in the sleeve, it's lined up perfectly. I take it out, and you can see there is a mark exactly where I need to drill to line it up with that pin. So since you've been gone, not that you noticed, I paused the camera, or rather my stalwart partner James paused the camera, so I could make a fine adjustment, which is really just due to my own nonsense. A slight realignment of what I was working on. But since you've been gone, I have since measured out exactly where I need to drill in the butt end to make it line up perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I have the same tape gizmo that I used before, and I'm going to measure, I'm going to drill exactly where this hole says. This, you can't really see it probably, but there's a pencil circle of where I need to drill. So I am going to do so presently. You're going to have to be very careful drilling this part because it's very close to the edge, and you could easily crack this thing, which you certainly don't want to do. You also have to make sure you're drilling at a 90-degree angle because it would be easy to go off to the side and accidentally just start drilling out the side of it, which you don't want to do either. So, precautions. And I think that should do it. So if you look here, you can see what I've drilled out. And so now, I guess, is the moment of truth where we see if I have drilled sufficiently to accommodate this pin, or this receptacle, this receptor, this this barrel piece. It's a little bit hesitant, a little bit reluctant to go down where we want it to, and I will again attempt to address that with my precision tool over here. But before I do that, I'm going to learn from my mistakes, and I'm going to drill out the hole for the pin. Now, the whiteout mark that I made earlier is still there, so I know exactly where I need to drill. That's very, very helpful. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out a bit for this. I'm going to grab the bit that is perfectly sized for the pin. I see where I need to drill, and I'm going to do that right now. Oh, no, no. See, you have to be very careful. It wants to go off towards that crack, and I don't want it to do that. So I have to be very careful about... Well, it kind of cracked itself open. So, looks like it decided to do the drilling itself. And that's unfortunate, but hopefully that's something we can fix up with a little wood putty. So now that that hole is made, the milk has been spilled, as it were, I can try and get this back in. Now, I would go to the hammer on this, as I mentioned before, but I'm a little concerned about the integrity of this butt end since I did all that drilling out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a Phillips head screwdriver. You can see that there is a screw impression there already to accommodate it, and it's not something that's meant to be drilled, but I'm going to screw it down anyway because sometimes you can get away with doing that. So as I screw it, it is going in. So it's something I'm going to have to work in, and it's making me work for it, but it is going in. So I should be able to get it in if I keep at it. Alright, so I did have to go to the hammer after all. It's a little tricky getting it in, but if you have a slightly larger bit than a 1/2 inch, I would recommend you using it. I don't happen to have one here, so I wasn't able to, but I think it's going to work anyway. So now you would think, okay, we'll just slam it down, turn it over, and we're done, right? No, we're not done. We have to test the angle, obviously, test to make sure that it lines up correctly, and more or less does. It's slightly offset, which is unfortunate. So I have some trusty wood putty here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill in the cracks. So you can see here, there's a lot of extra space in this. I drilled down a little extra just to be on the safe side. Looks like I didn't need it. So I'm going to fill in down here, being careful not to fill where the actual pin will go. So this is a brand new tube, so it's going to take a little bit of time just to get it all out. But I am getting it to come out as quickly as I am personally able. And get in there. Get in there! Being careful to get it down and try and fill all the voids so that when this is actually a playable stick, fingers crossed, that there won't be any voids that the pressure of play will impact. So I've spared you all the busy work. I've puttied and we've taped so it's nice and secure. So now all there is left is to wait and see if the putty hardens and the glue dries, and then James will have to tell us what the verdict is. So until then, thank you.
Well,
Only time will tell. It's in her hands now. Well, the putty is dry, the glue is dry, the stick is taped up and prepped. James, what's the verdict?
a complete success by Dr. Rhino Mac on the surgery of Old Man. So Old Man on the right now joins the Titan family with number 1 on the left, Mr. Spock in the middle, and Old Man on the right. So thank you so much, Dr. Rhino Mac. You did an excellent job. Old Man is in good company, in fine working order, and game ready.